In Jujutsu Kaisen, the special grade sorcerers are like the rock stars of the Jujutsu world. They are the chosen few who possess immense power and skill that allows them to stand at the peak of all beings. There are only 4 special grade sorcerers who are officially recognized. However, there is no denying that both Sukuna and Kenjaku also belong to the club as well. So today we're going to spill the beans on the 6 special grade sorcerers and explain their abilities. Let's get into it. We'll start with Gege Akutami's favorite character, Satoru Gojo. Gojo's curse technique is called limitless, which is an inherited technique passed down in the Gojo clan. This technique brings the concept of infinity into reality, allowing Gojo to manipulate and distort space at will. While any member of the Gojo family can hereditarily gain this technique, only those who also possess the 6 eyes as well can truly master the power of the limitless. Satoru Gojo is the first sorcerer to be born with both the limitless and the 6 eyes in the last 400 years. Limitless gives Gojo 6 of the most broken techniques in Jujutsu Kaisen. The first one is infinity, which is the neutral state of limitless. Infinity is essentially the power to stop, or in other words, it's the defensive use of limitless. It is the convergence of an unending series. Anything that tries to get closer to Gojo slows down and will never reach him. This is because infinity divides the finite space between Gojo and his opponent infinitely. In mathematics, no matter how many times you divide a number, it will never be reduced to 0. The limitless brings this concept into reality, as anything that attempts to penetrate this infinitely divided space will slow down to the point of appearing to stop completely. However, this doesn't mean Gojo is untouchable, as there are 3 ways to nullify infinity. The first one is by casting a domain expansion against him. The second way is to use domain amplification, which is an anti-domain technique. And the last way is by using a curse tool that can cancel out curse techniques, like the inverted spear of heaven and the black rope. The last thing I want to mention is that infinity can also be used offensively. As we saw in Shibuya, Gojo strengthened the output of infinity to crush Hanami, and in his fight against Sukuna, he used infinity to launch a building at the King of Curses. The next technique is blue, or the power to attract. It amplifies limitless to bring the concept of negative distance to reality. By creating a negative distance, Gojo forces the surrounding space to correct itself and fill in the negative space. This creates a strong force of attraction, similar to a powerful magnet. Blue also has a maximum output version, which is a highly amplified version of blue unleashed when it's been charged to its full power, to achieve maximum cursed energy output. This produces a gigantic field of attraction capable of clearing out an entire area like a black hole. Gojo can also achieve high-speed movements across short distances using blue by compressing the space between him and his opponent. This made Gojo the fastest sorcerer in his era. And finally, Gojo can use blue to make his attacks even more powerful, like he did against Sukuna before landing a punch on him. Next, we have red, which is the exact opposite of blue, as it is the power to repel. Red is extremely difficult to pull off, as it requires double the cursed energy of blue, and it also requires the user to know how to use reverse cursed technique. When red is released, the explosive output is massive, as it creates a gigantic shockwave that blows everything away. Another powerful technique of limitless is hollow purple. It is the fusion of both red and blue to produce an imaginary mass, capable of destroying nearly anything it collides with. If left unrestricted, it can even damage Gojo himself. It is such a rare ability that even within the Gojo clan, there are only few people who know this move even exists. Another unique thing about limitless is that it gives Gojo the ability of long-distance teleportation. This is achieved by compressing the space between Gojo's location and his destination. He can also teleport other people with himself, like he did with Yuji, and even without himself, like he did for Toge and Panda. The last and most powerful technique in Limitless's arsenal is Gojo's domain expansion, Infinite Void. This domain brings Gojo and his target inside Limitless itself. It forces an endless stream of information into his target's brain, overwhelming them to the point where they're completely immobilized. This leaves the opponent open to an easy attack from Gojo as they stand. Only Gojo and anyone he touches are immune to the effects of Infinite Void. Gojo can also cast his domain for 0.2 seconds like he did in Shibuya. And with all of that being said about Limitless, let's move on to another broken ability of Gojo, the 6 eyes. Unlike Limitless, the 6 eyes is not a technique but rather a rare gift also inherited within the Gojo family. It gives Gojo an extrasensory perception, allowing him to perceive anything with cursed energy in extreme detail. Any sorcerer can perceive cursed energy, but a 6 eyes bearer can read the flow of cursed energy even when their eyes are covered, allowing them to even detect people or objects with 0 cursed energy. Gojo is the only person that has ever sensed Toji from behind, and it's all thanks to his 6 eyes. The eyes also give Gojo extremely precise manipulation of cursed energy, allowing him to use his cursed techniques with next to 0 cursed energy expenditure. This allows Gojo to fight and use his limitless technique, as he will never run out of cursed energy. However, one major drawback of the 6 eyes is that it is a passive trait that even Gojo himself cannot deactivate. And while it doesn't need cursed energy to function, leaving 6 eyes uncovered for long periods of time can fatigue the bearer. That's why Gojo is almost always seen covering his eyes with a blindfold. And lastly, it's worth mentioning that Gojo is capable of using Black Flash and reverse cursed technique as well. He is also capable of using anti-domain techniques like Simple Domain and Falling Blossom Emotion. And now let's move on to Gojo's arch-enemy, the undisputed king of curses himself, Ryomen Sukuna. We still don't know what exactly Sukuna's innate curse technique is to this day, but we do know about two of his signature attacks, dismantle and cleave. Dismantle is Sukuna's default slashing attack that is normally used for inanimate objects. However, it can also be used against cursed spirits and sorcerers to great effectiveness. This is what we see Sukuna using in his fights most of the time. Cleave, on the other hand, appears to be a more precision-based technique. It adjusts itself depending on the target's toughness and cursed energy level to cut them down in one hit. It is much more strategic than dismantle and appears to be used sparingly by Sukuna. This is probably because it needs much more cursed energy to activate. Cleave can also be used in the shape of a spider's web by touching the ground. In chapter 249, we saw another unique application of Sukuna's slashes. He manipulated cleave and dismantle to such a precise degree that he grabbed Yuta's katana without actually touching it. Kinda reminded me of Gojo's Infinity. In addition to cleave and dismantle, Sukuna has a mysterious technique which is called open. When it's activated, Sukuna can create and manipulate flames for long-range attacks by forming an arrow. Although we don't know much about this technique, it was strong enough to finish off both Jogo and Maharaga in Shibuya. Sukuna can use all three of his techniques inside his domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine. It is a barrierless domain that can have a radius of up to 200 meters. This domain allows Sukuna to use both cleave and dismantle to constantly slash everything within its effective area. And this slashing can only stop when Sukuna makes the domain disappear, or when he's so badly injured that he can no longer maintain the domain. And the final ability that Sukuna has up his sleeve is the ability to take over bodies. This is done by feeding one of his fingers to the person he wants to take over. We saw him using this ability in chapter 212 of the manga, where he swapped from Yuji's body to Megumi's. And it's worth mentioning that when Sukuna takes over someone's body, he gains access to their curse technique as well. As we saw after he took control over Megumi, he became an excellent user of the 10 Shadows technique. And lastly, Sukuna is also able to use reverse curse technique and anti-domain techniques like domain amplification. And in the latest chapter, we saw him using hollow wicker basket to counter Yuta's domain. Following Sukuna, we have Gojo's best friend, Suguru Geto. Geto's innate technique is curse spirit manipulation. As the name suggests, this technique allows him to capture and control cursed spirits after he defeats them in battle. After beating a cursed spirit, Geto converts it into a ball of pure cursed energy and then eats it. He once stated eating these balls tastes like an old dirty rag used to wipe up vomit. If a curse's grade is 2 or more levels below Geto, he can absorb it without any conditions. This means he only has to beat grade 1 and special grade cursed spirits to control them. It's also worth mentioning that if a cursed spirit has a master-servant relationship with another sorcerer, Geto can only absorb it after the original master dies in some way. After Geto gains control over a cursed spirit, he can summon them anytime in the future. And also, there doesn't appear to be any limit on the number of curses that can be absorbed. Cursed spirit manipulation has a maximum technique called maximum uzumaki. This technique combines all the cursed spirits Geto has absorbed into one and hits the target with a blast of super condensed cursed energy. And while this sounds cool and all, Uzumaki's true potential actually lies in extracting cursed techniques of high-grade cursed spirits for one-time use. However, it's unclear if Geto knew about this ability, as we haven't seen him use it in the series. The one who introduced this to us was Kenjaku, who we will be talking about now. Many great stories have the trope of a villain who is considered to be the master manipulator, working behind the scenes to further their own schemes, while the rest of the world fights for problems that are much smaller in scale. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Kenjaku aka Pseudo Geto fills this role. Kenjaku's innate technique allows him to swap bodies with another person by transplanting his brain into the body of his target, even if they are dead. This technique allowed him to live for over 1,000 years. Once inside a body, he gains access to the host's cursed energy, their cursed technique, and even their memories. What makes this technique even more powerful is that even after switching from one body to another, he can keep all the cursed techniques of his previous hosts. Kenjaku has many cursed techniques thanks to his body hopping ability, so I'll try to explain his abilities as I talk about each of his hosts. Among his victims, there are very important characters he has inhabited that changed the course of history. His first victim was this unknown guy, who we don't know much about. He used this guy to make binding vows with past sorcerers about 400 years ago. After this guy, Kenjaku transplanted his brain into noritoshi Kamo's body. As noritoshi Kamo, Kenjaku experimented with the fusion of human flesh and curses, resulting in the death paintings we see today. Due to Kenjaku's acts, noritoshi Kamo is regarded as the evilest jujutsu sorcerer in history and the black sheep of the Kamo family. After noritoshi, his next victim was none other than Yuji's mother, Kaori Itadori. He not only swiped Kaori's anti-gravity system technique, but also played matchmaker for her and birthed our dear protagonist, Yuji. The reason for this remains unknown to this day. It could be because he wanted to make the perfect vessel for Sukuna. However, this is just a theory, and it's not officially confirmed. The anti-gravity system that he stole from Kaori is one of the most broken techniques in the whole series. As the name implies, it allows Kenjaku to negate gravity around him, and it's the reason he survived Yuki's black hole. It can also be used to increase gravity antigravity through curse technique reversal to crush his targets to the ground. After Geto's defeat against Yuta, Kenjaku took advantage of this and made Geto his final victim. As Geto, he gained access to cursed spirit manipulation, and of course, uzumaki. However, unlike Geto, he didn't use uzumaki just to make blasts of cursed energy, but he also used it to extract Mahito's cursed technique. He used idol transfiguration on Tengen's barrier to kickstart the culling game by remotely altering the souls of the people he marked throughout the years. He wants to optimize cursed energy through the culling game to merge Master Tengen and all the non-sorcerers in Japan to give birth to a new single entity. Even Kenjaku himself doesn't know what the outcome will be, but that's his intention. Kenjaku is also capable of making mini versions of uzumaki. These small uzumaki are still very powerful, as they were able to deliver the final blow to Yuki. Kenjaku can also cast his domain expansion, womb profusion. However, we don't know much about this domain except it's a barrierless lethal domain, and it lets out powerful blasts at a certain gesture of Kenjaku's hands. And lastly, Kenjaku is also capable of using reverse curse technique. He used it to heal Geto's body after he took over him. He also revealed that cursed spirit manipulators can make the cursed spirits they possess stronger through using their own cursed energy. Next, we have Todo's mentor, Yuki Tsukumo. Yuki is a special grade sorcerer who doesn't work with Jujutsu High. This is because she doesn't agree with how the higher-ups handle things. She believes by killing cursed spirits over and over again, they're only getting rid of the symptoms, but not the whole problem. So she goes about making the world curse-free in her own way, and that's by eliminating cursed energy in all humans. Apart from being a special grade, what makes Yuki even more important as a character in the series is that she is also a former star plasma vessel like Riko Amanai. Yuki's cursed technique is called Star Rage or Bombaye, which allows her to grant virtual mass to herself. And since the mass added to her is virtual, it makes her attack stronger without having the drawbacks of that extra mass. In her fight against Kenjaku, this technique made Yuki's attacks so devastating that she punched through his arms and broke them both in half. She can also apply this technique to her Shikigami, Garuda. Garuda can act as Yuki's cursed tool and do her bidding, and can also act independently even if she's injured. We've seen Yuki turn Garuda into a whip, a restraint, and even a soccer ball when she channeled her inner Messi. When Star Rage is applied to Garuda, it can easily exorcise special grade curses with one blow. Star Rage gives Yuki one of the most broken abilities in the series. She can turn herself into literally a black hole by continuously adding large amounts of mass to her body. However, this is Yuki's last resort, as it will kill her in the process. In chapter 208, after she transformed herself into a black hole, Kenjaku stated that it could have blown up the whole world if it wasn't for Tengen's barrier and Yuki's will to suppress it. In addition to Star Rage, Yuki can also use anti-domain techniques like Simple Domain, and since she was Todo's mentor, she taught him how to use it as well. She is also the reason Todo has a scar on his face, as apparently his training with Yuki was not a picnic. And lastly, she can use reverse curse technique, and she has her own domain expansion, but unfortunately we never got to see how it was. The last special grade we are going to talk about is Yuta Okkotsu. While he may not be as powerful as Gojo, it's undeniable that Yuta is a Jujutsu prodigy. This is because he became a special grade sorcerer with only 1 year of experience, and the fact that he has the second largest pool of cursed energy in the series, second only to Sukuna, is a testament to his great potential. Yuta's main curse technique is manifesting Rika. Rika can be partially manifested when Yuta simply calls out her name, and she can also manifest herself without him commanding her to do so. Once Rika is manifested, she acts on Yuta's commands most of the time. However, she can act independently to protect Yuta as well. Rika can also be fully manifested when she is connected to Yuta through his ring. The fully manifested Rika can act as an external storage to store additional cursed energy and a wide range of cursed tools, including Steel Arm. She also allows Yuta to gain access to his innate technique, Copy. As the name suggests, this technique allows Yuta to copy any cursed technique that Rika has stored for him. The conditions for Yuta to copy a technique are still unclear. A common theory is that Rika must eat a body part that belongs to the original user of the technique. What makes this technique even more powerful is that Yuta can copy multiple different techniques. So far in the series, we've seen Yuta copy 3 techniques. He copied cursed speech from Inumaki, which reinforces his words with cursed energy and manipulates his target's will. He copied sky manipulation from Uro, which can turn the sky into a tangible surface and use it to manipulate space. And lastly, he copied this unknown Shikigami technique from Druve that can slash his targets. In addition to all of this, the fully manifested Rika can be used in combat and fight alongside Yuta. She can even transform into an even more powerful form and unleash beams of cursed energy from her eye. This beam of pure love was strong enough to overpower Geto's Uzumaki and deliver the final blow to him. However, it's worth mentioning that Yuta can only maintain his connection with Rika for 5 minutes, and it's implied that she can be destroyed to end the connection even sooner. Yuta is also capable of using reverse curse technique. Alongside Shoko and Sukuna, Yuta can also heal people other than himself. He even took it to the next level, as he can heal poisoned victims, which requires more precise skills. He can also use Black Flash like he did against Geto. And in the latest chapter, we finally got to see his domain expansion, True Mutual Love. Yuta's domain takes his copy technique to the next level. The domain looks like a battlefield filled with swords, and each of the swords has a different curse curse technique that Yuta has copied imbued in them. And judging from the amount of swords inside the domain, Yuta can use an endless amount of curse techniques. This means that he can change his sure hit attack, and it's the only domain that can do so in the series. Imagine Yuta throwing a sword at Sukuna, and it happens to be hollow purple. And those were the 6 special grade sorcerers in Jujutsu Kaisen. I know there are other characters who also deserve to be on the list, but that's a topic for another video. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe. Your support means the world to me, and it's what keeps this channel going. Click here to see all domain expansions in Jujutsu Kaisen.